to our next session. So I'm delighted to welcome Sandy Robinson from Quavo, and she is going to give us a session on how AI is rewiring enablement. So round of applause as she comes to the stage.
Woo! Good morning. All right. I came from the States last week, and is anyone gluten-free in this room? Anyone? Okay, you're gonna get this. We got to the hotel, and we found the first fish and chips place that had gluten-free fish and chips. It was Hodson's. It was so amazing. Tonight's my last night, so we're going to be going back there so I can get some more fish and chips. But excited to be here. Have a lot to talk to you guys about. Role-play bots, role-play agents are so fun. Nobody likes to do role-playing, right? As long as I've been in sales, which has been a very long time, getting people to do role-plays was just excruciating. And now it is, it's so much better. So first things I want to start off with is I want everybody, if your company has some sort of enterprise-wide AI tool, whether it's Claude, whether it's Gemini, whether it's OpenAI, I don't know, anything, Copilot, stand up. So the company's saying, we have this tool, you should use this one, don't use the weird rogue thing that you're using, use the thing that we're telling you to use. Okay, now, listen carefully. Stay standing if your team owns it. Everyone else sit down. Yeah, like literally nobody owns it. Okay, so who owns it? Who owns the tool? IT, someone said IT? Yeah, InfoSec, IT. It's definitely a new environment. As we go to scale, all of our processes, all of our different programs that we try to roll out, our enablement programs across the organization, we have this new dynamic, and it's amazing. I'm gonna tell you a little story about this actually. It leads into that. It was March 18th, 2026, and this email went out from our CTO, and I'll never forget it. It said, new AI tooling coming your way. I was like, woo, okay, cool. Enterprise Claude is here. Everybody in the whole company is going to get Enterprise Claude. We've just literally turned it on for everybody. And at first I was like, woo, this is exciting. I've been trying to get Claude because I want to hook it into all of my other systems and make my life so much better. And I'm tired of using my rogue ChatGPT account on the system, so I do my own thing and pay for my own thing. So I'm like, woo, I'm very excited about this. We finally have a tool across the org that everybody is going to be able to use. And so within the email, it said something like, okay guys, there's Claude 101 and Claude 102, and here's the definition, and go out and figure it out yourselves. So I basically turned it on for the whole company and said, go out and learn how to use it, and good luck. And I've been doing this for 25 years, and not once have I rolled out a program without some sort of enablement, a new tool, a new process. Would any of you in this room ever turn on a new tool and just send an email? Oh, hell no, you're all enablement people. But of course we did this across the company. So all of a sudden I started having this anxiety because I definitely am a control freak. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this means people can do crazy things. Before you know it, after like the second day, there was some rogue email that went out. Somebody sent an email that basically declined a meeting. Luckily it was internal, it didn't go to a customer. And it was something like, you don't have an agenda in your meeting, so I'm not going to go to this meeting. and then the person was like apologizing, so like, oh, Claude wrote the email because they wrote some automated thing to respond to their emails. And there were other things like that. Pretty soon we had like a rep posting social media content that was just freaking ugly, okay? it had, no branding. It had like funky colors and stuff like that. They're writing their own things. Like, we didn't train them on how to say that. We didn't give them the talk track for that. They just like made it up. Or they asked Claude, and then they're posting stuff. So I could see that there's a lot of benefit to rolling this out at scale in your companies. But as you're trying to do the things in your areas with sales, with customer success, or whatever teams you support, sometimes these things are challenging because you have things that are outside of your control, because none of you control this. Your sales enablement teams, your revenue enablement teams, your revenue operation teams, none of us control this. They're setting the rules, so we have to work as a team, we have to collaborate. And so it just, for somebody who's always thinking about efficiency and scale, I think we're in this danger zone of potentially scaling the wrong thing. So we think we are scaling and being more productive as a company, but at the end of the day, we're scaling inconsistency. We're scaling the things that they're already doing that, we haven't potentially trained them on, or whatever the case may be, and they're just doing the same thing, but they're now automating it. They're doing it at a bigger scale, and they're, just kind of sending things out into the ether. So it's quite an interesting time right now. And is anybody's company expecting you to hire fewer people? Raise your hand, because now you have AI. It's like, hey, you have Claude, so now you have fewer headcount, right? So there's this idea that everybody's more productive, which is definitely the case. I'm way more productive in doing a lot of different things. But do you trust that every single AE or sales solutions consultant, sales engineer, or CX or account manager are being consistent with what they're doing? And I think that's where the challenge is right now. What we're facing is everybody's trying to figure it out. And then we have all these purpose-built tools, like great, amazing role-play agents we just saw, but then we have this overarching, hey, we're now a Claude shop. Everybody's using Claude, or everybody's OpenAI. And there's some level of expectations, especially if you're a PE-backed company. There's going to be some level of expectation of some gain of efficiency there. So I think the idea and the concept that I'm trying to get across here is that we just need to be mindful that at the end of the day it comes down to process, and don't run into the anti-scale. So if everybody has their own AI team reporting to them, essentially their own team of agents, how do we stay operating as one company? How do we scale effectively? So I like to look at it as architecture. How many of you have a RevOps team that you work with or are a part of? Raise your hand. Okay. Do you work pretty closely together with RevOps? Okay. So I think this is critical because a lot of the tools, to me, these functions go together, right? You have systems, process, you have your architecture, how they all work together, and then how do you actually get adoption and enable all of these things, and then teach the methodologies on top of it. So it kind of all weaves together, and I like to think about the whole architecture thing. So I put a survey out there on LinkedIn before I made the trip, and the interesting thing to me in this survey was people were freaked out about bad data, right? Which, of course, I'm freaked out about bad data. I mean, there's always going to be bad data anytime you're having a human input data because you can't trust humans. But at the end of the day, what was interesting to me is nobody was concerned about inconsistent customer experience. That was very eye-opening because people are so freaked out about, oh, I can't do this because I'm going to scale bad data. I'm more worried about the goofball who's sending off the weird LinkedIn post that doesn't look like it came from our company. Those are the things that give me anxiety, that we didn't train him on how to talk about it. We didn't train him on how to actually have the conversation and what's the strategy for posting it. You're just throwing something ugly out there. It had some decent messaging in it, but and then lack of governance, low adoption, and these kind of things. So interesting stuff. I just found that really interesting because to me, that would be a big one. So anyone seen the bow tie before? Yes, raise your hand. Okay. It's Winning by Design. It's a revenue operating system, revenue architecture. Basically takes the funnel and it's a more complete version of the funnel. The center is the customer. So in the center is how the customer buys from left to right. So left side is your top of funnel marketing stuff, all the way to your win. And then right side is going to be all of your CX land. And then we have all these things that we care about as a company, what we call things, how many marketing qualified leads we get, and how many new opportunities. How many of you are responsible for generating new opportunities? Anybody? Hope so. How about actual sales? Anyone tied to numbers, new business? Good stuff. Okay. Cool. So you guys know all these metrics. That's the stuff about us and how we operate. And so I always like to take this as a framework. Anytime I'm working internally or with teams or whatever, how does your process flow through this? So if you are specifically in sales enablement, you're probably working more in that education, selection, lead to opportunity area. Maybe you're working with BDRs too, so you're a little bit further up to the left. But it's really important. And then, this is what's changed. So I mentioned I've been doing this for 25 years. So I started out in sales. I was selling Yellow Pages advertising, which probably half of you don't even know what the hell it is. I've thought about things even last year differently in the way that I wire my systems together, the way that we're setting up Seismic, how I'm looking at setting up Seismic for my enablement tool, how I'm looking at utilizing Salesforce. It is all completely different. What we're doing today is different than even what I was doing 6 months ago. So what I'm going to show you is how I'm thinking about things, and don't get too caught up on all the stuff in here. We have a small stack. So when I got to the company, we didn't even have Salesforce. And so bringing all these things together and making it so, say that enablement tool pops up at the right place, or we're able to feed the data in from the call intelligence to the role play tool, we have to have the right architecture, but we also have to think about how we're using our enterprise AI. Because everybody in leadership is going to want to go in and say, hook up our MCP so we can get Salesforce reports out of it, or so we can go listen to calls. That happens as soon as those things are available. They just connect them, and then they don't know what the hell they're doing. At least when you have people going into the actual systems, they have to be familiar with how to use the systems. Now we can just be lazy and ask Claude, like, oh, get our latest pipeline. And then Claude's like, what the hell's a pipeline? And Claude kind of makes something up and gives them wrong answers, and then it's like my fault, right? So we have to think about how these things are connected and how you're building which source of truth is in which place, right? So if you're working with call intelligence, so we have call intelligence writing back to Salesforce, because salespeople don't fill out fields, so I'm filling them out for them. But we also have Microsoft kind of pulling into attention because it tells attention where to put everything. Then I have attention pushing into Seismic with an API, so we can share calls through our deal rooms. Then I also have attention into Claude, so we can ask Claude, and I have some projects, I have a little tip I'm going to show you, where those, that's how you get the calls, that's how you get the call intelligence, and that's how you kind of learn more about it. And this is super powerful for enablement, if you can actually really harness this. If your company, which sounds like all of you, have some level of enterprise setup, if you can work with your IT department on setting it up in the way that makes sense, these are the kind of things that are really important. So I try to think of it strategically, but instead of Salesforce, I used to think of Salesforce as our launchpad, our dashboard. Literally nobody does that anymore. Their launchpad is Claude at our company. They literally start in Claude, and that's what they do. And they don't know how to use it, and it's really scary. I'm going to show you an example of why. So, and I'll give you guys the deck for this. So, as we approach this, I created this operating system stage. I don't know, it's the best thing I can come up with. But we need to, this is foundational, and I'm guessing you all already kind of operate this way. So foundationally, standardizing your approach, your definitions. A lot of you work with handoffs, or I call them transitions. But I wrote it in there because nobody would know what I mean. So those are the kind of things that are really important. So you standardizing things, the architecture, govern, evolve. Things change every day. There's a new version of Claude every day, a new version of OpenAI every day that pops out, and you can do something new. And then people are like, well, when should I use this one? When should I use this one? This one costs twice the amount of tokens. Ouch. Talk about saving FTEs, you're going to spend it on tokens. Like, it's bad. It's really bad. There's a story I won't share on that, but so standardize. For me, it made me freak out. You saw my picture, that was literally me, because I didn't have all my SOPs dialed in. I didn't have like my perfect SharePoint site set up with all of my stuff, all of my playbooks, all of my guides. I didn't have everything dialed in. I was kind of in startup-y mode. I have stuff in this folder, stuff in that folder. You know, I wasn't very organized. And I realized I have to quickly get organized. So this standardization is critical for everything you guys are doing, having everything organized. Whether you're using SharePoint, OneDrive, Confluence, I don't know, whatever your company uses. We've got our SharePoint connected to Seismic, so everything's underlying in SharePoint. But like, I didn't even have a RevOps and enablement SharePoint page. So I was like, shit, I better set one up. And so getting those SOPs, because that's what all the AI is going to read. So if you want people, if you want to create a new process or a new playbook, you're just going to tell Claude, like, hey, look at this folder, here's all the old stuff, here's what I want to change, make me new stuff, you know? Like, but if you don't have those fundamental processes in place, that standardization, it makes it very difficult. So that's what we've been doing the last quarter, last month or so, is focusing on every definition, every stage, every handoff, every piece of information is in either an Excel sheet, a Word doc, Confluence page, something like that. And each person on my team has like a list of documents they've got to go, if you don't have definitions, go figure them out, fill it in. So if you already have the stuff, it makes it super easy, because then you can just point people to the right places and then set up your standard folders, you know, make it so nobody can mess them up. Read-only is my favorite. Don't like giving people right access. So standardization is probably the most critical thing you can do right now at this time with everything that you're doing. Marketing will come to you, be like, oh, we're going to do a new ICP. I want your playbook. I just had this happen. We had a new SVP of marketing. He started, and our sales leader created, he's new, and he created his own little playbook in some random SharePoint folder. So new SVP of marketing, like, pointed Claude to that thing. And I'm like, that's not even the actual thing. And he made this whole, you know, new inbound ICP, you know, persona, all this stuff. And I was like, whoa, let's point this to the right place and build it. So then kind of helped him on where the right things live. And so people will do that. So you just want to make sure that your source of truth, those underlying files, those underlying things that you've worked so hard to build, can be found and accessed in the right places in your organization. So pretty soon, if you don't do that, you skip these steps, you've got people doing like all kinds of stuff, emailing the wrong people, sending things, and this is, again, what I lose sleep over is getting a prospect confused, getting a prospect the wrong message, getting a prospect spammed, getting your organization blocked because they sent so many things that are not passing all of the right criteria. So don't skip standardization. I'm gonna tell you a little story. This is a totally made up name. It's actually a real story. I was rolling out our note taker, which is attention, and I put together this project across a bunch of different tools, so like Microsoft, SharePoint, attention, a number of other things. So I was testing this with one of our AEs, and I had him share his screen with me. And I swear to God, it looked like my 15-year-old's closet when he turned on his sharing in Claude. I could not believe how many folders he had. He had like 50 folders in his projects, or in OpenAI is like this too. You've got project folders, right? Every project was a deal. And he had it connected to like attention, it had it connected to all kinds of stuff. And then he was running daily sweeps on it and taking all these documents and saving them in his own SharePoint folders, like his own OneDrives. And I was like, oh, this is not efficient. Like, first of all, when I looked at it, I was like, how in the hell, like, can this guy actually function? And well, it's actually a guy. I gave it away. Anyway, I messed it up. But it's actually not Michelle. And then it was like, okay, we're doing a training. I can share my screen and show everybody else how to do that. I'm like, no. That's like next level. It's okay, we don't want to freak anybody out, I'll have you do it on the next session, and it's like, I love that people are diving into this stuff, but we are going back to the anti-scale, like that is a hot mess. This cannot be efficient, and not to mention, I don't even know how many tokens that's costing in all of those things when we can do it more efficiently, because it's now creating all these additional data silos in all these other places, and I'm not convinced he's even being efficient. So just be mindful of this as you're rolling things out and working with your IT teams. So architect, we talked about the data flows. The one thing I want to say here, does anybody have any of their systems connected, like Salesforce, your enablement tool, anything like that, connected to your enterprise instance of whatever AI tool you have? Okay, so MCP is the connection, and you can turn them on, read, write capabilities. Do not do write capabilities, at least right away. Just don't do it. Let people gather the information, learn from it, let them make themselves more efficient. It will create holes. For example, you'll find out permissions in systems you didn't even know you didn't have because somebody figured out a loophole in Claude and added a bunch of crap to Salesforce that your team didn't want to be added. So I think it's really important how these things are getting connected. So sometimes IT teams, they don't think about that. They'll just turn it on and you're like, whoa. So for example, we use Clay. I am not connecting Clay because I don't want people spending credits. I'm pushing everything into Salesforce automatically. They can get the information via the Salesforce MCP. They don't need Clay. They don't need ZoomInfo either. I don't want them spending my credits there. I've got ZoomInfo plugged into Clay. So you have to think about this and what you're wanting them to use and access and how those things are connected. So work with your IT team. So your systems that you own, your enablement systems, are all eventually going to have an MCP connection. They don't all now. Seismix, I think, is in Sandbox, and we're playing with it in Sandbox right now. But like, those are the things that are critical, is making sure how they're set up and how they're connected. So that's all I'll say. And I mean, I think this is kind of obvious at this point. When we have bad data, we have missing data, we have conflicting data, it's just going to scale confusion quicker. So kind of going back to the beginning, when I'm talking about the anti-scale, these are the kind of things that I think about, and that read-only capability I think is really important as you start out. I mean, I can see some benefit down the road, but at the end of the day, I don't really see a need for the entire company to be able to update systems at scale. They should be thinking about these things. Okay, give you a little enablement tip. I made this for myself, so I'm trying to hire actually a director of go-to-market enablement right now. So right now I'm doing it all. I'm onboarding like, I don't know, I think I have 12 new people I'm onboarding right now. I'm going crazy. I don't have Seismic LMS stood up yet. We're in the process of standing that up. So I made some really, I made some stuff in Claude, some landing pages and things like that. And I'm doing a lot of live sessions. So what I did is I set something up in Claude. I name all of my sessions either onboarding, training, or enablement. And at the end of the day, Claude sweeps my calendar and looks for anything with that title. And then Claude makes me an enablement guide to go with the video, and then also gives me the full transcript and saves it to a folder for me. So I don't have to worry about it. And I've refined the instructions to be able to have a good enablement guide that nobody will probably read, that goes with it, and having everything organized, and it saves to my SharePoint folders, so everything's there. So now we can go reference it. We can reference it from Claude. And then I also use Claude to build a really nice HTML landing page, so people have tracks when they start their onboarding, and they can go through all these and then connect to our Confluence pages and knowledge checks and things like that. So it was pretty easy to build using Claude as like a band-aid until I get like real LMS land set up. But this is just, I thought I'd share this with you because it's been super helpful for me. And then when other people, does anyone have like product marketing in their teams, in their org somewhere? You know how they like to do training stuff? And do they like to not tell you? Yeah, it's the worst. So yeah, I have meetings with product marketing, and I've trained them to add me as optional on all of these and make the title, training, and then I'll get the recording too. So I don't even have to go to it. So I make sure, because like I said, I'm a little control-y, and I want all the content, I want it all in one place, and I want to know what's happening, I want to see the schedule, I want to see the calendar. So just a little tip, how you can really leverage your enterprise AI that it sounds like most of you have to make your lives a lot easier as enablement professionals. So governing, we're getting to the point where I'm putting together custom skills at our company. Fortunately, only people who can make custom skills is our IT department, so I'm working with them to put together some skill packages, and that's going to help us get better information out of Claude, right? But it's not like all that stuff you see online from vendors are like, oh, download our skills package. That's total horseshit, right? Like when you pull them down, there's nothing in, it's all customized for whatever their organization is. So you have to take your playbooks, ask Claude or OpenAI, hey, I want to create a custom skill package. Here's all the stuff I need. I want my branding package, and just do it that way. You don't need to download some stuff and put in your email and all of that. But that's what we're working on right now. So that's where the governance is going to come in. So right now, somebody tries to pull a report out of Claude. I don't know what they're going to get. I know what I'm going to get when I do it, because I know that we have this little checkbox on our opportunity record in Salesforce in the background that nobody can see that tells us it moved to pipeline with a date stamp. Nobody else really knows that, only your people who are in that stuff know it. So we're going to build all these skill packages, we're working on them. But you don't want everybody building custom skills in your organization, because then it can be accessed by everybody. So if you just type in report, it could mean different things, right? So that's where the governance comes into play. And you don't own it, right? So you have to make friends. Make friends with the teams that do, meet with them all the time, send them gifts, whatever it takes. And what are the approved sources, and always making sure there's a human in the loop, and then who has the ability to make these decisions. Super important. And I'm running low on time, so I'm going to skip through here. Evolve. This is not set it and forget it. Every day this is going to change. Every day you should be evolving. Every day you should be revisiting. And your AI is going to start learning, right? So when I go back to these projects that I've made in Claude, it gets smarter. And then I'll tell Claude, well, update your instructions now. Because now I've got this different result. So you have to continue to evolve it, which is part of the challenge because you can't access all that stuff that all your reps are doing. So you have to teach them. You have to enable them. You have to teach them how to use your enterprise Claude. That's what you have to do, is teach them how to do it. Teach them how to use it the right way. Not just do the role play, but how to actually use the systems that I'm already kind of using. Some people aren't, like, I can tell when they're lying. They're like, oh yeah, I made a co-work. And then they don't even have the desktop app. So I'm like, well, you're lying. So we have to teach them. We can't expect them just to go figure out Claude 101 and 102. We have to teach them. All right, I think I'm out of time. So at the end of the day, enablement is not the owner of AI, but you own alignment, you own the architecture, the governance, and everybody owns the execution. So now we're looking at building operating systems and really cross-functional collaboration across teams is more important than ever. It's always been important, but now it's even more important, and with new teams that maybe you haven't spent as much time with in the past. So when you get back, map your bow tie, audit your AI, and create governance. Think about SAGE. That's all I have. Thank you. Thanks. AI-powered RevOps. Check it out.
It's about governance, right? Because we want people to be using these tools, but we don't want the example you mentioned of projects
going crazy. So have you seen any best-in-class examples of governance that kind of thread that balance between encouraging to use it versus going crazy the other end of it?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the middle of that right now, and that's really the struggle. And it's like any other new tool. You have people who take off with it, and those are the folks that you want to leverage. So like the real guy's name is Evan, not Michelle, but Evan and I actually meet every other week, and I work with him on things, so I'm kind of helping him to be more efficient, and you know, he tries to influence me on what tools he wants, and you know, it's this weird dynamic, but yeah, I think it's tough, and I think we're all learning right now, and I think what's going to happen, my prediction is, in a couple of months, people are going to go, oh shit, we just spent $50,000 on tokens with Claude because we didn't teach people how to use it correctly. That's already happening with us. Like we just put we had a bill, I probably shouldn't say this. Is this live broadcast? It's like, oh shit, I'm not saying it. Why didn't you tell me that, Chad? So anyway, you're going to have, you'll have this like go, and then I think there's going to be this like wall where everybody gets cut off for a minute, and then there's going to be a regulation. Like back when there were, like back in the day when cell phones were new, and I remember one time I was like, I don't know, 21, and I got a bill for like $900 from AT&T because they charge by the minute. So I think that's like how it is right now. And I think we're going to have like, you know, rollover minutes and all that kind of stuff happening. And then I think things are going to shift. So I think it will hit a point where companies kind of slow it down a little bit, and then we start to figure, then they go, oh, we need to have governance, right? And then you're like, hey, we're all set up for that now. But I think it starts with each individual and really just teaching them.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I'll come grab that in 1 second. But can we just put our hands together